Welcome, Katrina here. Welcome to your Thursday practice. I'll call this one Lateral Lift. So we could start in a seated form of your choice. Maybe tipping your pelvis forward and back. So we could start with some exploration of rounding our back as we tip our pelvis back, maybe arching as we tip our pelvis forward. Again, you can decide on the range of this pelvic tilt. So it could just be little wavers, or you can really lean back into your back as you tip your pelvis back, holding onto your knees perhaps. Just checking in with your breathing. Are you exhaling? Do you want to sigh out your breath? And eventually coming to stillness. And then we could hold on to our right knee and foot. So maybe holding on to your right knee and your right foot with your left hand, drawing circles with your knee if you wish. And the degree of your circles is your choice. So little circles, bigger circles, maybe changing direction. Or maybe drawing your lower leg closer to your body. So you could also wrap your right elbow around your knee, your left elbow around your foot. Your choice, how you want to engage with drawing your leg towards your body. Maybe for one more conscious breath before you change sides. So at will, changing sides, holding on to your left knee and left foot. And you can begin drawing circles, little circles, bigger circles. Again, your choice. Checking in with your breathing. Maybe changing direction of your circles. Maybe drawing your leg closer to your body. Feel free to do so, holding onto your leg with your hands or wrapping your arms around your leg. Taking a few conscious breaths. And then coming back to your seated form, a neutral form. And then we could turn our left leg out. So if you were in a cross-legged form, your left leg would go into an external rotation. So turning your leg out, flex your left foot. If you feel any sensitivity in your knee, you can prevent any rotation in your knee by flexing your foot. And we could sit here for a moment and notice where we feel sensation in our body, maybe in your left hip. Taking a few conscious breaths. And then if you'd like, you could bring your right hand to the floor and reach your left arm up and over, coming into a lateral form. So you may feel a stretch-like sensation on your left side. You can inch your hand away from your hips or rest on your elbow. And you could stay in this form, or you could inhale and then exhale back up, pushing yourself up perhaps with your right hand, if that works. And then again, lowering yourself into that lateral form. Inhale and then exhale up to seated. Maybe one more time. Ending in seated. Taking a moment before we turn to face the end of our mat. or the side of your mat, depending on how you're organized. And we could lower both elbows to the floor, or you can extend your arms overhead. Your choice. Staying in this form, maybe as you turn your shoulders and rest on your elbows, or maybe you're reaching your arms overhead and resting your forehead on the floor, perhaps. Staying for a few breaths as you draw that left shoulder towards your mat, trying to, or maybe there's a will to turn your shoulders so that your chest faces the floor. And where do you feel this form? In your waist, in your hip? Maybe coming up, or you can stay for another breath or two. Once in seated, maybe taking a conscious breath before we change sides. So now flipping our right leg into an external rotation, maybe flexing your right foot. So if you're in a cross-legged form, turning your right leg out to the side. Sitting here for a moment, noticing any sensation in that right hip, maybe trying to lower that right hip if you wish. So noticing where you feel this form in your body. And then we could go into a lateral stretch. So maybe as you lower your elbow or your left hand to the floor, so you can support yourself with your left hand if you wish, reaching your right arm up and overhead, maybe feeling a stretch in your right side. So maybe feeling that, like that pull, that stretch-like sensation on your right side. And you could do a few rounds of lifting up and then going back into this lateral form, so you can stay, or you can exhale up and then lower your elbow or hand again and reach as you inhale. Exhaling back to seated, back into your lateral form. Finishing this round with a big breath in and then maybe one more. Good. Coming back to seated when you're ready. And then we could turn our shoulders to the left and come down onto our elbows or hands. Maybe taking a moment to adjust here, turning your shoulders, turning that right shoulder. Notice where you feel this form, maybe in your waist, in your hip. You can rest on your elbows or reach your arms overhead, resting your forehead on the floor. Your choice. So maybe you'd like to find a way to interact with this form by noticing sensations in your body, or maybe enjoying some stillness while you take a few conscious breaths. Coming back to seated when you're ready. And we could orient ourselves to sit on our heels and then fold forward. So maybe a child's form, resting your head on stacked fists or on the floor. Taking a moment to fold into this form. Notice where you feel your breath perhaps in this form as you breathe in, Where do you feel the air filling? So maybe it's your rib cage, your back, maybe your belly. You can separate your knees as much as you want in this form. And then when you're ready, we could come onto our hands and knees. Feel free to do a few rounding and arching your back if you wish. And then maybe you'd like to try a dynamic form. And again, you can always stay in any part of these forms that I'm inviting you to share with me. Or we could move in and out of this tabletop with an exhale back into child's form. And then inhale, lift up and straighten your left leg. Exhale back, folding, sitting on your heels, folding forward. Exhale, inhale the other side, lifting your right leg up and back. Toes can be resting on the floor or lifted up in the air, your choice. And exhaling and inhaling. Exhaling and inhaling, exhaling into that fold, that child's form, inhaling into a straight leg, maybe pointing your toes or flexing your foot, experimenting with this dynamic form. And if you wanted to add to it, as you inhale, you could lift one leg and the opposite arm. So maybe straightening your left leg and reaching with your right arm. Exhaling back to child's form. Inhale when you're ready, changing sides, maybe right leg, left arm, or whichever side you're on. So maybe moving dynamically at your own pace from a folded child's form to up. Maybe noticing your back in this form as you move in and out of these forms. Maybe to maintain a flat back, you want to notice your stomach. So maybe as you inhale up and breathe in, you're also maintaining a flat back. Maybe engaging your lower abdominals, if you wish, if you can access that part. Finishing when you're ready. So maybe one more round, one on each side, and then coming to rest for a moment. In child's form or seated, your choice. Maybe sitting on your heels. And then perhaps downward dog, if you'd like to bring your hands down to the floor again and curl your toes under, lifting off. And you could start with your knees slightly bent as you lift into this form. So as you lift your hips and lengthen out through your waist, through your arms, you could even press into the floor through your hands. So interacting with that touch, that support under your hands as you lift your hips away, maybe shimmying your hips. Notice how that feels perhaps in your waist or in your hips. And then you can begin pedaling your feet if you wish. Maybe you have already. So whatever comes to you in this form, you can pedal your feet, straightening one leg and then the other. Or you could bend both knees and straighten your legs at the same time. You can take a break in child's form whenever you need one. And maybe 3 conscious breaths in this form. So if you feel like you can hold this form for 3 breaths, if you can't, that's okay. We'll step forward at the end of this form into a standing forward fold. But maybe you'd like to stay in downward dog for 3 breaths. Just noticing as you breathe in and out how this feels in your body, maybe grounding your heels, or maybe lowering your heels to the ground for 1 more breath. Stepping forward when you're ready. Maybe staying in your forward fold if you like. If you like this form and you'd like to stay, maybe you want to sway your upper body from side to side or turn your head from side to side. Maybe you'd like to do a curl up and curl back down. You're welcome to do that. If you want to do a curl up, maybe you'd like to tuck your tailbone and curl up, unfurling, maybe even reaching your arms overhead. And then we could go into a forward fold again. Maybe taking a breath, and I'll meet you in standing. Maybe another breath at the bottom, curling up, and we'll meet in standing. From here, so you could come to the top of your mat and step your left foot back or slide your left foot back, bending your right knee. So maybe you'd like to experiment bending your right knee so hips can be facing forward. And we could straighten and bend our knee a few times just to get a feel for this form. Maybe your arms are in a T to help you balance as you bend and straighten your leg. Maybe your arms are overhead. Maybe you'd like to be still and stay with your right knee bent, left foot back. This traditionally is called Warrior One. So if these names speak to you, you're welcome to name the form. So perhaps a couple more breaths. So maybe even if you want to experiment with arching in this form, you could even lift your chest and look towards the ceiling. Breathing. And then from here, we could experiment with lifting our left leg. So right leg is bent, bringing your weight onto your right foot as you lift your left foot back, arms in a T or overhead, balancing on your right foot, your right leg. And see if you can engage. So notice if you're feeling a sort of tightening, a strengthening in your right hip and thigh as you lift your left leg back and up. And like always, you can stay in the form. Maybe you're very steady today. Maybe you've fixed your gaze on something and you're able to hold this form for a few breaths. Or maybe you want to be dynamic, lowering your left toes to the floor. So you could even point your foot if you want, lowering your toes and then going back into this is called Warrior 3. If you like the names of these forms, if they speak to you, Warrior 3. Staying or maybe being dynamic in this form as you wish. Couple more breaths. From your Warrior 3, with that left leg lifted back, if you want, you could bring your left knee forward and up. So you could challenge yourself, moving in a balancing form, pausing for a breath with your knee up in front of you, lowering your left foot when you're ready. And take a breath. You could even, if you want, observe both sides of your body. Does your body feel like one side feels different from the other? So we just work to our right side. Maybe you felt in that Warrior 1 a stretch in the top of your thigh. So we can try that one again on the other side. Right foot back, bending your left knee. So as you slide your right foot back and bend and straighten your left knee, do you feel a stretch or a pull on your right side at the top of your thigh, near your pelvis? Or maybe you feel this more in the muscles of your legs, helping you to to find some stability. Maybe there's effort in this form. Bending and straightening your knee if you wish, or you can stay. Arms in a T, arms overhead, hands together, your choice. Maybe taking a few conscious breaths. So maybe staying in this form now. You could explore arching your back if you want to look up and lift your chest towards the ceiling. That's an option. Maybe one more conscious breath before we bring our weight onto our left foot. Maybe pointing your right toes behind you, tipping at your pelvis, hinging at your pelvis to lift your right leg up and back. Maybe staying, maybe steadying your gaze on a spot on the floor. So maybe staying in this form, holding this form, or you can be dynamic or do a few rounds where you lower your right big toe to the floor, maintaining the length through your body, and then hinging again to come back into Warrior Three. Taking some time to explore this form for a few more breaths. And maybe bringing your right knee forward and up in front of you to come out of the form, perhaps standing tall on one leg for a moment with your right knee up in front of you. Feel free to take a breath, lowering your right foot when you're ready. And then you could observe, does your body feel more balanced now that we've done the other side? And then you're welcome to come down to the floor. I was going to suggest that we do a knee down twist. So when you're ready, lie on your back, walking your heels towards your pelvis. You could start by letting your knees float from side to side. Arms can be beside you in a T, overhead, wherever you wish. As you flop your knees from side to side, you can even separate your feet a little more. So maybe your heels are hip width apart, maybe wider as you let your knees float from side to side. And then maybe you'd like to roll onto your right side, bending up your legs. So both legs can be bent up or just your left knee. And then we could reach our left arm up and over, coming into our twist. Maybe looking behind you or maybe looking up towards the ceiling. Third choice could be to look down towards your knee. You can experiment. And you're welcome to stay here for a few breaths, or you could reach your left arm up and over and come back to our original form, lying on our side, and then into your twist again. But feel free to do a few rounds, or you can stay in your twist for a few breaths. This is your practice. Changing sides when you're ready. And maybe just flipping your legs from this while staying with your arms on the floor, or maybe you want to roll onto your right side. Both knees bent, or just your right leg, reaching your right arm up and over. Notice where you want to or where to look. I mean, your eyes can be closed, but maybe your direction is your chin tipping, you're looking down towards your right knee or looking behind you. And you're welcome to stay for a few breaths, or maybe you want to roll back onto your side. You could inhale back into your form. Exhale, settle. Do a couple more rounds or stay. As I said, this is your practice. When you feel done, you could roll onto your back and hug your knees if you wish. You can separate your knees, holding on to your right knee with your right hand and your left knee with your left hand. You could draw circles again with your knees. Your choice. You could lift your feet towards the ceiling and then bend your knees. Lift and bend so you can straighten your legs if you want. You can also be still, lying here for a moment, coming to seated when you're ready. And notice if your seated form is different from when we started. Do you feel like you can sit taller? Maybe, maybe not. Some people need to sit on a cushion to lift their hips up. Otherwise, they feel like they're kind of rocking back. So finding a comfortable seated form for a moment. And if you'd like to end with a breath practice, I invite you to, I'll describe the sequence. So I'm going to invite you to breathe in 4 beats, to hold 4 beats, and exhale 8. If you can't make it to 8, you can linger with that exhalation and then begin again. So when you're ready, inhaling 2, 3, 4, holding 2, 3, 4, exhaling 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and again, inhale, counting on your own, and hold, and exhale. Again, when you're ready, breathing in, holding your breath, holding that expansion through maybe your chest or your belly, exhaling fully. Again. And then maybe one more. When you're done, maybe you'd like to leave your eyes shut or close your eyes for a moment, breathing at your normal pace, noticing your breath, noticing the pace of your breath, quieting down for a moment before you carry on with your day. Namaste.